A perfect Detroit-style pizza commands your attention. You are looking for three specific results: a thick, airy crumb, three bold racing stripes of reduced tomato sauce, and a crispy, blackened cheese wall that supports its own weight. To understand how we build that structure, we look back to the blue-collar origins of the city. Auto workers and mechanics relied on the heavy-duty industrial materials readily available to them in the mid-20th century. This diagram shows the exact hardware needed to replicate those industrial conditions: a 10 by 14-inch anodized aluminum pan. If you cannot source the rectangular pan, two standard 8 by 8-inch square cake pans provide the correct surface area for a proper bake. The final piece of the equation is the fat. Authentic Detroit pizza demands Wisconsin brick cheese. It has an exceptionally high fat content and a buttery flavor that browns heavily in the oven. If you can't find it locally, a 50-50 blend of Monterey Jack and low-moisture mozzarella gives you a nearly identical fat profile. Nailing this iconic style requires treating the process as an engineering problem. You need the specific heat retention of the metal pan and the exact melting properties of the cheese to construct that signature caramelized edge. The foundation starts with 300 grams of bread flour, 5 grams of instant yeast, and 9 grams of salt. Stir that together, pour in 220 grams of water, and mix until a rough dough forms. Let it sit for exactly 10 minutes so the flour fully absorbs the hydration. This illustration shows the 3 acceptable mechanical methods for developing the gluten structure. You can choose a stand mixer, a food processor, or manual kneading. If you opt for the stand mixer, run it on medium-low speed for about 10 minutes. Watch the bowl. The dough must anchor itself and stick to the bottom as it stretches, rather than riding around the outer edges. For the food processor method, pulse the ingredients, then run the machine continuously for 30 to 60 seconds. Stop processing as soon as the dough forms a tight ball that rapidly circles the perimeter. Going entirely by hand works just as well. Turn the rough dough onto a counter and knead for a full 10 minutes. This physical manipulation manually aligns the proteins. Regardless of your tool, you are looking for a very specific physical state. The dough should be a smooth, silky, and tight ball that springs right back when you press into it. Wrap it tightly in plastic and leave it in a warm place to double in volume for about 2 hours. That tight gluten network acts like a net. As the yeast ferments over those 2 hours, the strong protein structure traps the expanding gas, which guarantees an airy crumb. While the dough proofs, we build the sauce. Heat 2 tablespoons of olive oil, then add minced garlic, oregano, and red pepper flakes. Give it about 30 seconds to sizzle and bloom in the fat before adding a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, garlic powder, onion powder, and a tablespoon of sugar. This chart illustrates why we cannot use the sauce right away. Watery tomatoes will saturate your dough during the bake. You must simmer the mixture for 30 minutes, concentrating the flavor and driving off moisture until exactly 3 cups of thick sauce remain. Then season it with salt to taste. By now, your pizza dough has doubled. Coat the bottom of your aluminum pan with a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Drop the dough in and begin pressing it flat, pushing outward toward the edges. It will inevitably shrink back toward the center. Stop fighting the gluten tension. Cover the pan with plastic and let the dough relax for a mandatory 30 minutes. As you can see in this diagram, the trick to perfectly filling the pan on your second attempt is the overstretch. Pull the relaxed dough slightly up and beyond the metal walls. When you let go, it will retract precisely into the 90-degree corners. By actively boiling off the excess water in the sauce and forcing the dough to hold its shape in the pan corners, you eliminate any chance of a soggy, structurally weak base. The build sequence begins by pressing your fingertips into the stretched dough to push out any massive air bubbles. If you are using pepperoni, lay half of the slices directly onto the raw dough. Now for the most critical structural step. Take 12 ounces of your high-fat brick cheese, or your substitute blend, cut into half-inch cubes. Looking at this cross-section, you can see exactly where the cheese needs to go. A generous portion of those cubes must be packed tight against the oiled aluminum perimeter, wedged right at the boundary where the dough meets the metal. Fill the center evenly with the rest. Add the remainder of your pepperoni over the cheese. Before you add the sauce, portion out exactly half of your reduced batch and save the rest for a second pizza. This schematic shows the classic sauce application. Spoon your reserved sauce down the length of the pizza in 3 thick, completely separate lines. Packing the fat from the cheese directly against the heated metal walls ensures it melts down the sides during the bake, frying the crust and building the rigid, caramelized crown that defines the pan pizza. Move your oven rack to the absolute lowest position and preheat to 550 degrees Fahrenheit or 290 Celsius. If your oven struggles with bottom heat, put the pan right on the oven floor to fry the base of the crust. Bake for 12 to 15 minutes. You are looking for the exposed cheese in the center to turn a light golden brown, while the perimeter bubbles aggressively and turns completely black. Do not pull the pizza out when you see those black edges. That dark ring is a chemical reaction of pure caramelized cheese fat, not burnt dough. Let it finish. Once out of the oven, transfer the pan to a folded towel. Immediately take a thin metal spatula and run it along the entire inner perimeter of the pan, cleanly breaking the melted cheese seal to release the pizza. The intense thermal blast and strategic cheese placement yield a perfect structure. You have a crispy fried bottom, a light crumb, and a solid wall of caramelized cheese holding it all together. Carefully lift it out, slide it onto a board, cut, and serve.